So then we go back to yeah. Players range we got yes, indeed. They're powerful, amazing. Before that, just the two. On the it sounds like a lawyer. Yeah. I think so.
You don't need a condominium.
Yep, two sides of the same coin.
Oh, come on. My 08 truck doesn't even have one.
Well, job security, things keep changing.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to.
Yeah, okay. I know I career cave.
Simplification. When has that ever happened?
You don't want to do that. You got that fixed.
Seven o'clock. We'll get rolling here. Call to order. Roll call by the county clerk.
We have 29 present and 1 absent.
Thank you. Pulling out my tablet here. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Kirk, could you lead us tonight?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's take a moment. Thank you. Please be seated. We're in compliance with open meetings law. Thank you. Approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed. Mr. Paulson, motion. Mr. Backlund, seconds. Anybody else see anything that needs to be moved around or changed or anything else? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. The agenda is approved. Approval of the February 11th, 2025 meeting minutes. Mr. Winnicky.
Yes, I would move approval of the February 11th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Morris. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. The minutes are approved. Communications.
You should have your notice of public hearing for planning and zoning, which is March 27th, 2025 at 7 p.m. You also have an annual report on Lake Ripley Management District from Supervisor Turville Heights, an annual report on Blue Spring Lake Management District, Lower Spring Lake and Rehabilitation District from Supervisor Kennard, and an annual report on Mad Rep from Supervisor Zarling. And then you should also have a treasurer's monthly report. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment. We have one public comment. John Chavez. Oh, no, this is of a general nature. Yeah, this goes at the end. That's right. I'm sorry. The general nature. So it has to be something that's on the agenda tonight.
we have a public comment from, why don't I explain this?
Okay.
This pertains potentially to something on the agenda. It's the packet that's in front of you, the poem from the Mott Center. So this is something Brent would be able to potentially explain if that's all right with this body.
Okay, good evening. I'm Brent Relo from Human Services. And this morning at our Human Services Board meeting, I was able to read a poem from a 13-year-old who was recently residing at our Mott Center. Our Mott Center is our Youth Crisis Stabilization Center. And as I read the poem, the Human Services Board was so moved that our chair, Mr. Jones, asked that I read it tonight during public comment. So Michael created a little space for me to do that. So I'd like to read it, and it's my honor. Again, she was a young girl, age 13, at our Mott Center, and she returned to give the staff some homemade cupcakes with her mother, and she wrote this poem. It's entitled, Healing Hearts at Mott Center. In the heart of the South, where the willows weep, there's a place called Mott Center, where souls find peace. Staff and clinicians, with hearts so kind, healing broken bodies and troubled minds. We're healing hearts at Mott Center, where love and care abound, leaving behind all the hurt and sorrow, new beginnings to be found. 3 months I've spent in that bed, praying for strength, trying to mend. The staff by my side, wiping tears away, guiding me through my darkest days. We're healing hearts at Mott Center, where love and care abound, leaving behind all the hurt and sorrow, new beginnings to be found. Saying goodbye is never easy, but I'll carry their love with me as I walk out these doors, healed and whole, grateful for the healing of my soul. We're healing hearts at Mott Center, where love and care abound, leaving behind all the hurt and sorrow, new beginnings to be found. Healing hearts at Mott Center, a beacon of light, guiding us through the darkest night, leaving behind the pain and strife, embracing a new lease on life. So, wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Special order of business, overview of 2024 financial results, and proposed 2025 budget amendment update. Who is leading that? That would be Mark. Oh, here it comes.
Everybody hear me okay? All right, good evening, everybody. So would you like the good news first or the bad news? Just kidding, it's all pretty good. I'm going to present the 2024 year-end results and 2025 budget amendment overview to you. Here is the agenda. We are going to present the financial results by fund. I'm going to give a brief analysis of the results. We'll talk a little bit about the Capital Projects Fund, which is responsible for the improvements to this building and where we're at with that. We'll go through the fund balance policy application, which I handed out to each of you. You should have a sheet with 2 columns on your desk, and we'll go through that. We'll talk about the budget amendment and carry forward. I do not see that that made its way into your package, so I will make some copies for you all before we vote on that tonight. And then I'll give a brief near-term financial outlook for 2025. So financial results by fund. And this is kind of small, but I'll try to go through here. Maybe I can blow it up just a little bit. I don't think I can. So the general fund, we'll start with that. We had a big gain in the general fund this year, and I'll talk a little bit about why that is. The gain was almost $3 million. The biggest reason why that was so large is because we had planned to do a large disbursement to Thrive ED for $2 million for the Live Local Development Fund in 2024. That did not happen. It's going to happen. It will happen in 2025. It is a part of the carryovers that you will be voting on tonight. We do have one anticipated adjustment that we haven't made yet. That is $500,000 transfer out of the general fund into the capital projects fund that will assist with closing up this, the building project. I'll go a little bit further into that in another slide. And then finally, the capital projects fund is expected to fully retain the $160,477 designated by the board for closing costs and other costs related to the sale of county property as designated by the board on March 12th of 2024. So the last carryover adjustment, if you recall, had a provision for splitting up the sale, the proceeds for the sale of county property. There is a slide that covers that as well, and I will go through where we're at on each one of those items. So for general fund, when we did the revised budget, which included a rather large carryover adjustment last year, the planned deficit was $3.7 million. That is assuming that we would spend everything that we had budgeted for, which rarely ever happens. So why are we at almost a $3 million surplus? What changed during the year? Again, the distribution of the Live Local Development Fund to Thrive ED did not happen. That was $2 million. Interest rates, if you recall, we set the interest rate budget in August of 2023. Just a few months earlier in 2022, we had issued the 2022A bonds. And if you recall, we had quite an extensive debate on should we issue the full amount of the bonds and what were interest rates going to do at that time. Nobody expected interest rates to go as high as they did for as long as they did. We have benefited a lot from that. The outlook right now seems to be pretty steady. It looks like interest rates will hold for at least the next couple months. I'll talk a little bit more about that in my outlook. Sales tax collections were strong. They exceeded budget by $500,000. I don't expect that to happen going forward into 2025. And then finally, wages and benefits were $2.82 million under budget due to vacancies throughout the county. Almost 2 million of those vacancies were in the sheriff's department, which gives you kind of an idea of where we are at for staffing in the sheriff's department. Most departments tracked on or under budget. There were a few that did not, and we'll be talking about those in the resolution again tonight. Overall, the financial results and the compliance with budget was very favorable. We were a little bit over $27,000 for departments that overspent, so that is very good. It's an excellent year. The other funds beyond the general fund, in the health department fund, we did have a small profit in the health department fund of about $65,000. The reason for that is there is a diversion of resources from the public nursing program, which is levy funded, to other programs that are ARPA funded. So we retained some of that levy and that went back into fund balance. A few years ago, before ARPA started, we did have a structural deficit issue in the health department. I think we are going to return to that at some point in the future once the ARPA funds dry up. We do see there are some ARPA funds remaining in the health department fund that they have to spend during 2025 yet. So that could help them in 2025, but I expect in 2026 we'll be looking at a structural deficit issue in the health department. Human services, wages and benefits were under budget by $2.16 million. Operating expenses were also under budget by 2.7. That was offset by a short in charges and grants by 5.26 million as well. They turned a profit of about 108,000. The highway shop turned a profit of about 800,000. Most of that, or about at least half of it, was due to a transfer in from the general fund for the Highway D bridge project. That was also supposed to come from ARPA, but we didn't have enough costs incurred, so we moved some of the building project expenses into ARPA, and that freed up money in the general fund to transfer over to Highway D. And that transfer took place at the end of 2024. So that's why they're $825,000 to the black. And then finally, in the fleet fund, we had a small amount of profit, about 130,000, and that is because we didn't purchase any vehicles in the fleet fund for 2025 or 2024. We will be making a rather large purchase for a fleet in 2025. So back to the resolution last year when we did the carry forward adjustment. If you recall, we had a little over $3.3 million in proceeds from former land sales. That was allocated as follows: $1 million to Live Local Development Fund, $1 million to the restoration of general fund balance, $500,000 for strategic plan initiatives, $500,000 for PACE program or fireland preservation, $200,000 for improvements to the parks building, and $166,477 for closing costs. Of that, the $1 million for Live Local Development Fund still remains. The restoration of general fund balance we'll go over in another slide. The $500,000 for strategic plan initiatives is included in the carry forward adjustment. We have not touched that yet. The $500,000 for the PACE program is also included in the carry forward adjustment. That has not been touched either. Improvements to the parks building, there was a small amount of that was applied last year. There's about $160,000 of that left yet. We have a quote from the highway department to finish up some of the grading and paving out there to the parking lot. And the fencing was provided by Kikkoman, so they donated a bunch of fencing to us. We were able to complete that project with the Kikkoman fencing, so thank you to them. And I already talked about the $160,000. That is preserved fully. So for capital projects fund beyond 2024, at the end of 2024, we have almost $900,000 remaining in fund balance. None of the bond proceeds are left. All the ARPA funds are spent. We are down to only general fund transfers at this point. So this is all what I would call unrestricted fund balance. The funds needed to close up this project is about $1.2 million. And then we have, like I said, the $160,000 of $477 of cost that have to come into the fund. And so in order to make that all work, we have to transfer money from the general fund of about $500,000 over. So instead of a general fund and a transfer coming out of capital projects fund to the general fund, we actually have a transfer coming from the general fund into capital projects fund. I think that's okay. The results that we have for this year make that possible. We had better than expected results, as you saw. So I think I am fine with that. So the fund balance policy application. What this all comes down to, we take the fund balance is an accumulation of all the profits and losses since the inception of this entity. And right now, with the projected surplus at the end of the year, we've got approximately $41,637,191 in fund balance. That's what the sheet in front of you that I handed out says. So what the fund balance is, it's our bank account, it's our savings account. And what we do here with this sheet is we try to quantify all of the outstanding commitments that we know are out there, regardless of whether or not they're budgeted. There are a lot of things on this sheet that aren't in the budget, but we're still committed to do them. For instance, our vested benefits. We owe our employees vested benefits. They're going to retire at some point. We're going to pay them out those vested benefits. So they're not budgeted out to be all paid out, but we do owe it to them. And so that's what this sheet is for, is to collect all of those things that we know that are outstanding but aren't in the budget, and to subtract those from the available fund balance to find out how much we really have left to spend at the end of the year. So just working our way down the sheet here, we start with the 41 million. We subtract out what we call non-spendable. The reason that it's not spendable is that when we say non-spendable, that means non-spendable in the near term. In other words, is it spendable in the upcoming budget cycle? And so for things like inventory, for things like long-term receivables and things of that nature, those are not liquid. They can't be spent. They're already tied up somewhere else. So we can't use them in the next fiscal year, so we subtract those out of available fund balance. Restricted fund balances are those fund balances that are restricted from an outside source. In other words, there are legal restrictions on the use of those funds, so we take those out of available fund balance as well. Committed fund balances, typically this has been what we call incurred but not reported claims that are outstanding. We get a report from our actuaries every year telling us how much in claims might be floating out there that haven't hit us yet. These are insurance claims, typically liability and workers' comp are the big ones. And our actuaries tell us that as of the end of 2023, we have not received the 2024 actuary reports yet. We have about $1.2 million in outstanding claims that have not been reported. Assigned fund balances. In this column, there's a couple things. The 2.463 million, that is what we expect to draw down according to what we have budgeted right now. So that is our budgeted deficit for 2025. We have to subtract that from the fund balance that we have available now. That's about 2.5 million. And then other assigned fund balances by departments, those are carry forwards that the departments have requested, and the detail of those I will print out for you before we vote on that issue. And then we get to our vested benefits. We have about $4.3 million in outstanding vested benefits, a slight increase from last year of about $150,000. And then finally, we add back the unrealized loss on the market value of investments. And the reason why that we do that, right now we mark all our investments to market value, but we hold them to maturity. So if we don't ever realize the loss of the market swings. We sell everything at their par value, and we're going to get back those investments. And so in order to arrive at what the true fund balance should be, we have to add back a loss, or if it's an unrealized gain, we subtract that from the fund balance. And then we got down to our working capital number. So this is their goal. We have a 2-month requirement. It's based on the total budgeted expenses for 2025, which is $106 million. The 2-month working capital requirement is $17.7 million, excuse me. And then we add to that the 3-month goal of $8.8 million to get at what we should have reserved in fund balance of almost $26.6 million. And then we have a negative number at the end. What that means is that we're under our 3-month goal by $3 million, okay? But we are above our 2-month requirement by almost $6 million. So we're in, I guess, what I would call the golden cone of prosperity, where we're more than required, but less than the goal. Any questions on that? That's pretty complicated. I hope I did a decent job of explaining it, but that's kind of how, when we look at what we have available to spend for capital expenses in 2026, I mean, a lot of times what we use is that unavailable fund balance number. Well, we don't really have much, but we do have a fund balance study that's coming up. And we had our first meeting, our kickoff meeting with GFOA a couple weeks ago on that. That is the study that you all approved a couple months ago with GFOA, and they are doing a risk-based approach to what they think our fund balance should be. My gut feeling is that it's going to be probably less than the 3-month goal that we have set now. So, and that might give us some room for capital budgeting in the future. We have some discussions on that once we get the results at the Finance Committee level. We expect to have that study done by August. So at the August Finance Committee, we will be presenting the reserve study, and then we'll know where to go from there in our budget process. Any questions? So
Questions from Mark?
okay, I think I went all through this. Now I'm going to go through the budget amendments. For the carryovers, we're requesting to carry over $500,000 again for the strategic plan initiatives that came out of the sale of the farmland. For the Financial Education Center, we're requesting to carry over $32,000. That came from last year's carryovers as well. Again, in administration, we have Live Local Development Fund. That money's going out shortly. EMS planning, we're asking to carry forward $50,000 for that. That may be reimbursed by the state. We are seeking a grant reimbursement for the EMS planning. We don't know if we're going to get that grant, so the $50,000 is kind of a backfill just in case we don't. Highway site remediation, we got some cleanup to do at the highway site over here. The estimates are higher than $200,000. I think this is a low number, but we still have some negotiations to do with Vertus there. So where that actually shakes out and in relation to what and how that's going to affect our sale prices remains to be seen yet. We do have $70,000 budgeted for restructuring the alcohol and drug treatment courts. This was formerly for SCRAM and LIFT programs in 2024. It did not get spent for those programs. We are looking at potentially hiring on some full-time staff and maybe scaling back our involvement with WCS a little bit in that area. And so that's what the $70,000 is for, is to look at that structure. And we're still assessing the LIFT program. And then $13,665 for emergency response that came from 2023. In the Fair Park, we've been carrying forward $30,000 for a feasibility study. This will help inform our vision of that Fair Park and where we want to go with it, which in turn will drive some capital project type of conversations into the future. We also have a capital carry forward of $90,000. The reason that's there is because we didn't receive any capital requests from Fair Park for 2025. And the reason that we didn't is because that position was vacant when we had the capital requests. So we gave them money anyway, knowing that we probably do have work to do out there, and that's what the 90,000 is for. Parks, we have the tree loft purchase that is moving forward. Interurban Trail, we have $121,000 left of a carry forward that I think we started back in 2019. I've been drawing down on that for the Interurban Trail. 2025 should be the last year that we're carrying that forward. I think that is finally going to get completed in 2025. We do have another there's about a $250,000 gap at this point in that project. And then the reason for that is that we thought we were going to get a stewardship grant last year, and we did not get one for that project. We're going to reapply and hopefully get a stewardship grant for this year. If not, we're going to have to do some aggressive fundraising or some really creative thinking here. Improvements to the Parks building, that's carried from the land sale proceeds. I discussed that already. And then they've got some other project and restricted project funds. Sheriff squads, they had 94,000 that they didn't use in 2024, so they requested that to be carried forward into 2025. $20,000 from BDAs that were not purchased. For those of you wondering what BDAs are, those are bidirectional amplifiers, and they are intended to amplify signals from our radio system. We had $120,000 budgeted for bidirectional amplifiers so that we could monitor certain channels. Our sheriff has determined that there is an app that we can use that is about $7,600 a year that will negate the need for the bidirectional amplifiers. So thank you very much to Sheriff Mays for coming up with that. He saved us a lot of money. He asked for $20,000 back, and I thought that was a pretty good deal. Mavis CAD is also moving forward. That's $40,000, and then $29,000 for some unexpected computer replacements that came about as a result of operating system upgrades. Human Services, our out-of-state placement reserve has not been touched, thankfully, so that stays intact. That's at $650,000. Miscellaneous capital projects that they're proposing, and our new facilities director, John Fox, is here. He's going to be going through some of those proposals and looking at the feasibility. $654,598. We do have a grant to obtain a new van from the DOT. Our match is $8,200. And then, if you recall, last year we switched vendors for the meal program. There was a cost increase associated with that. That was not originally budgeted in, and so they're carrying forward $60,000 for additional costs in the meal program. Finally, the highway shop. They've got 6 quad axles on order for $1.5 million, $1.9 million for highway projects and maintenance. State and federal projects, $24,000. Winter maintenance, they drew down on that, $612,088, and then as a result of some of the turnover that's happening over in the highway shop, they've requested $310,000 for staffing and restructure changes going forward. So that's 2025. Looking kind of ahead to where I think we're heading for this year, I do see slowing in sales tax. Our December collection was about $800,000. Last year, the December collection was about $1 million. So that kind of tells you that people's spending habits are starting to change this year. I still think we're going to hit our budget target. I don't have any concerns there as of yet, but I don't think that we're going to see the large variances that we've seen in the past. I think we're going to be very close to budget this year instead of seeing, $500,000 over. I think we're going to come right in at $9 million. Interest, the Fed meets in next week. From all signs that I can see, they are not going to lower interest rates next week. They'll meet again in May. It's anybody's guess what's going to happen between now and May. So we'll see. I don't think we're going to see Fed rates go down too much in 2025. I think they're going to hold pretty steady. That's just my gut feeling from what's going on in the market. But we're constantly monitoring that. Federal and state programs, I expect minimal impact to the programs that we have here in Jefferson County. Again, that could change at any time, but I really don't think that the core programs that we offer are outside of the strategic direction of the current administration. Let's put it that way. Wages, I do expect upward pressure on wages, and especially at certain positions. We'll be coming back to you with a proposal next month for a software package that will kind of help us monitor other counties and cities' wages that are around us. And benefits, I know that Terry was on a phone call with ETF just last week, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago, where she was discussing where she thought their board was headed with premiums, and it sounds like it's going to be in the double digits, at least 10% for 2026 is what we can expect. Other costs, I think we're going to see some inflation. I don't know how much. It's very unpredictable. I think there's going to be some mild inflation in other costs at a minimum. I don't expect a ton of inflation, but again, we're watching all that very closely. All right, that's the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Mark?
Yes, I have one question.
Gross.
You may not be able to answer this, but how many bids did you get for doing that work at the park shop?
I don't think we bid that. I think we do the work a lot cheaper in-house. And I'm not sure that we have to bid the work if we do it in-house. So does that,
You answered my question.
okay.
You answered it.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
That was good news. A golden cone. All right. And a proclamation night proclaiming April 13th to 19th, 2025 as National 911 Communicator Week. Mr. Morris? Or,
I think technically it's me.
okay.
Okay, proclamation 2024-5. Proclaiming April 13th to 19th, 2025 as National 911 Telecommunicator Week. Whereas 911 is nationally recognized as the number to call in an emergency to receive immediate help from police, fire, emergency medical services, or other appropriate emergency response entities. And whereas the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office 911 communication operators are the first line of communication and the most critical point of contact Jefferson County residents and visitors have with emergency services. And whereas 911 communication operators are responsible for the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and EMS who are dependent upon the quality and accuracy of the information obtained from individuals who contact communication centers. And whereas Jefferson County Sheriff's Office 911 communication operators serve the most important link of service between our police, firefighters, and EMS by monitoring their activities by radio and computer, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas Jefferson County Sheriff's Office 911 communication operators have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients through their commitment and dedication to public safety. And whereas Jefferson County Sheriff's Office 911 communication operators have exhibited compassion, understanding, professionalism, and the ability to work under extreme pressure during the performance of their duties, now therefore be it proclaimed by the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors that April 13th to the 19th, 2025 is hereby recognized as National 911 Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and all government officials, parents, teachers, school administrators, caregivers, business leaders, nonprofit organizations, and the people of Jefferson County to observe this week with training, events, and activities to educate the public on 911 and its services.
Entertain a motion to approve the proclamation. Motion by Supervisor Morris. Do I have a second? Supervisor Backlund. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Hearing none, the proclamation has passed. Takes us to committee reports, resolutions, and ordinances. Executive Committee, resolution urging Governor Evers and the Wisconsin Legislature to support the county courts. Mr. Winnicky.
Okay, this would be resolution number 2024?
80.
80. Thank you. This resolution urges the state to address the financial disparity between the costs of running circuit courts in Wisconsin and the state's contribution to those costs. In 2023, Wisconsin counties spent $237 million on circuit courts, with the state contributing only $28 million, or 12% of the actual costs. Over the past decade, the county portion of court costs has significantly outpaced the increase in state funding. Jefferson County, recognizing this imbalance, supports efforts by the Wisconsin Clerks of Circuit Court Association and the Wisconsin Counties Association to request a $70 million increase in the circuit court cost appropriation in the 2025-2027 Wisconsin State Biennial Budget. The Executive Committee supported this resolution at its meeting on February 26, 2025, and recommended forwarding it to the County Board for adoption. Fiscal note, the fiscal impact of this resolution is not immediately determinable, and this resolution is consistent with our strategic plan. Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Moved by Supervisor Winnicke. Do I have a second? Supervisor Paulson, second. Questions? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. Second, resolution authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Watertown for right-of-way permit review services for broadband expansion project. Mr. Winnicke.
Supervisor Winnicke, that resolution was number 89, so this one will be 90.
Thank you, because I was going to ask that and look dumb again. Okay, resolution number 2024-90. Jefferson County has been working with internet service providers, including Bug Tussle Wireless, to facilitate the expansion of broadband infrastructure in unserved and underserved areas throughout Jefferson County. A portion of the Bug Tussle Wireless fiber project is located within the City of Watertown and therefore requires permitting from Watertown to construct, operate, and maintain utilities within the right-of-way. Jefferson County, the City of Watertown, and Bug Tussle Wireless have discussed avenues to move this project forward. These discussions have culminated in a proposed intergovernmental agreement which provides for Jefferson County's engineering staff's assistance in reviewing out right-of-way projects permits for this project. This will allow the City of Watertown to avoid the costs of a private consultant and help keep permit fees down. This resolution authorizes the county administrator to negotiate, finalize, and execute intergovernmental agreement with the City of Watertown for right-of-way permit review services for the Bug Tussle Wireless Fiber Project. The Executive Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on February 26, 2025, and recommended forwarding the county board to the county board for approval. Fiscal note, staff costs for the engineering review are already included in the 2025 budget. No budget adjustment is necessary, and this is consistent with the strategic plan. So, Mr. Chair, I move approval of this resolution.
Moved by Mr. Winnicke. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Paulson, Mr. Lund. Questions? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
The ayes have it. That takes us to Finance Committee. Resolution authorizing budget amendments to offset fiscal year 2024 department deficits. This requires a 2/3 vote. Mr. Jones, Supervisor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I read this, I'd like to thank Mark DeVries, our Chief Financial Officer, for his report tonight. He's been doing excellent work, and we much appreciate it. Resolution number 2024-91. At year end, the county administrator requests a budget transfer from the contingency or general funds to offset department deficit. This resolution will authorize transferring $27,509.76 from the contingency fund to various county departments due to expenditures in excess of appropriations in the fiscal year 2024. The Finance Committee considered this resolution at its March 6, 2025 meeting and recommended forward to the county board for approval. Fiscal note, Jefferson County ended the 2024 fiscal year with $429,999.38 in unallocated contingency funds. This resolution reduces the unallocated contingency budget to $402,489.62. Central services, staff turnover, and subsequent leave payouts overspent the department's budget. Emergency management, staff turnover, and subsequent leave payouts overspent the department's budget. Planning and zoning, clean sweep, and household hazard waste program expenses were higher than expected during 2024. Treasurer, unanticipated expenses relating to the foreclosure of the Tyson property have caused the Treasury Department to exceed its budget. As a budget amendment, this resolution requires 20 out of 30 affirmative votes for the from the total membership of the county board for passage. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Moved by Supervisor Jones, second by Supervisor Jekyll. Questions, discussion? Seeing none, this requires 2/3 vote. Please vote on your tablet.
Supervisor Jones,
Aye.
Supervisor Richardson. Aye. Supervisor Herbst,
Sure that was an aye.
okay. Supervisor Herbst,
Aye.
Supervisor Roberts. Aye. Okay, we have 29 yes, 1 no, and 0 absent.
Thank you very much. The resolution passes. All right, takes us to Finance Committee authorizing year-end request to carry over budget appropriations from fiscal year 2024 to fiscal year 2025 and amending the 2025 budget plan. Again, this requires a 2/3 vote. Mr. Jones.
Resolution number 2024-92. At year end, departments are requested to submit carryover requests for funds that are unspent. If the county administrator approves the request, it is reviewed by the Finance Committee and acted on by the county board for approval. There is a total of $46,773,757.21 proposed to be carried over from the fiscal year 2024 to the fiscal year 2025, and of this amount, $21,935,422.21 requires county board approval. The Finance Committee recommended that the funds of $21,935,422.21 be carried over from the fiscal year 2024 to fiscal year 2025. Fiscal note. The committed, restricted, and non-restricted amounts disclosed above require board approval to be carried forward into the 2025 budget. This resolution authorizes the Finance Director to make the necessary budget adjustments to enact the resolution. As a budget amendment, this resolution requires 20 of 30 affirmative votes for passage. Explanation of governmental funds. Non-spendable funds are funds that are included prepaid items, deposits, and inventory accounts. Spendable restricted funds are funds that are legally restricted by statutes, contract, or funding source. Spendable committed funds are funds that are spendable at the discretion of the county board. Explanation of priority funds, highway, for example. Capital net position represents items that are depreciated along with land, which is not appreciated. Restricted net position relates to municipal deposit for subsequent year work by the county. Non-restricted net position includes both required items and discretionary items. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Moved by Supervisor Jones, second by Supervisor Jekyll. Questions, discussion? Seeing none, please vote on your tablets.
Supervisor Jones,
Aye.
Supervisor Richardson. Aye. Supervisor Herbst,
Aye.
Supervisor Roberts.
Aye.
We have 29 yes, 1 no, and 0 absent.
The resolution passes. Takes us to item 11, Human Resources Committee. Ordinance amending HR 0360 hours of work, overtime and compensatory time, and HR 0645 holidays. Mr. Brogler.
Ordinance number 2024-21. The current personnel ordinance HR 0360, hours of work, overtime, and compensatory time, and HR 06445, holiday pay, outlines specific provisions for paid holidays. The purpose of this ordinance is to amend sections HR 0630 and HR 0645 of the personnel ordinance to provide non-exempt employees who are required to work on designated holidays with compensation at 1.5 times their regular hourly rate. These amendments will provide competitive and fair compensation for employees required to work on designated county holiday. The Human Resource Committee supported this amendment at their meeting on January 21st, 2025, and recommend forwarding it to the county board for consideration and approval. And if your copy tonight doesn't have it, but the one you received in your packet did have some red highlighted sections. If you have any questions, you could check with that. The fiscal note. The fiscal impact of this change is dependent upon the number of non-exempt employees required to work on designated holidays. Approximate cost annually for 9 holidays, impacting 8 hours per shift, covering 17 positions, is $17,442, which will be absorbed within individual departments as applicable. No additional tax levy is required. I move for passage.
Moved by Supervisor Brogner. Do I have a second? Supervisor Callen, second. Questions? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, the resolution passes. Item 12, Planning and Zoning Committee report. Supervisor Jekyll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Report to the honorable members of Jefferson County Board of Supervisors. Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee, having considered petitions to amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County, filed for public hearing held on January 16th, 2025 and February 20th, 2025 as required by law pursuant to Wisconsin statutes. Notice thereof having been given and being duly advised of the wishes of the town boards and persons in the affected area, hereby makes the following recommendations. The committee has reviewed and considered the facts presented in the application and received in public hearing and finds that the criteria listed in Wisconsin Statute 1941 and Jefferson County Zoning Ordinance Section 11.11C6 has been met for the below listed petitions. The committee further finds that petitions are consistent with Jefferson County Comprehensive Plan and Farmland Preservation Plan. Further support for committee's recommendation can be found in the staff reports and individual petition files on record in the Planning and Development Office. Approval of petitions as listed, dated this 11th day of March 2025, Blaine Paulson, Secretary. Moves us on to ordinance number 2024-22, whereas Jefferson County Board of Supervisors has heretofore been petitioned to amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County, and whereas petitions as listed were referred to the Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Committee for public hearing on January 16th, 2025 and February 20th, 2025, whereas at its meeting on January 16th, 2025 and on February 20th, 2025, Jefferson County Zoning Committee considered request to amend the official zoning map of Jefferson County after conducting public hearing regarding the request amendment and after receiving recommendation from the affected town, hereby make the following recommendations to the Board of Supervisors in open session. It's all listed down below here as it goes on. And fiscal note, this ordinance has no determinable fiscal impact. Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of this ordinance.
Second. Moved by Mr. Jekyll, second by Mr. Paulson. Questions? Mr. Kennard?
I will abstain for potential conflict of interest.
Duly noted. Anyone? Any other questions, discussion? Mr. Lund?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does the language here mean that then that the town board had a chance to consider what we did at our meeting here last month, and that town board then approved the rezoning? Is that correct?
No. No. They haven't acted. And we don't, and at this point, we don't know if they have legal standing to act. It's on their agenda
They
tonight.
acted on it.
So this is not that issue that we dealt with.
No, this is nuance.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. The ordinance passes. Takes us to item 13. Resolution from the Executive Committee. The former county administrator previously announced his resignation effective December 15th, 2024. Following that announcement, the county board established a county administrator search committee and retained an executive search firm to recruit and fill this role with a qualified successor. Jefferson County hired CPS HR, a government recruiting firm, to perform a nationwide search. A total of 44 applications were received. The search committee reviewed the applications and interviewed the most qualified candidates. After conducting 2 rounds of interviews and receiving input from references and community stakeholders, the County Administrator Search Committee unanimously voted to recommend Michael Lucky for the position at its meeting on March 5th, 2025. This resolution appoints Michael Lucky, the current assistant to the county administrator and interim county administrator, as the county administrator, effective March 11th, 2025, pursuant to the terms of the enclosed employment agreement. I'll go down to now therefore be it resolved that Michael Lucky is hereby appointed as a county administrator effective March 11, 2025, in accordance with the attached employment agreement. And be it further resolved that Jefferson County Board Chair is authorized to execute the attached employment agreement on behalf of Jefferson County. Fiscal note, funding for this contract has been included in the administration budget. No budget amendment is necessary. I move for this appointment.
Second.
Second by Mr. Brogler. Questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Michael. There appears to be a golden cone around him. Thank you ever so much. Now, a public comment. Mr. Chavez, please come up.
I will be brief. First of all, I want to thank you all for letting me come here and make a comment or statement before you. I am a candidate for Jefferson County Circuit Court Judge, Branch 1. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Jack Chavez. My real name is John, but I've gone by Jack since my college days, which is a long time ago now. I'll answer to either. It doesn't matter to me. This is interesting, or I think it's interesting to me. 35 years ago, I walked into this very courthouse having been hired as an assistant DA or district attorney here in Jefferson County. My family settled here too. We were over on Highway A and Highway C. I think it was the Erkey Farm property at one time. Previous to this, my schooling took place in public schools, including high school, college, and law school. The University of Wisconsin-Platteville is where I received a Bachelor of Science in Psychology, and my Juris Doctorate or law degree from the University of Wisconsin Law School in 1990. Shortly thereafter, again, I was hired as an assistant district attorney here in Jefferson County. In between college and law school, I was hired as a probation officer in the state of Illinois, and that's where my love for the law came from. I started watching all the lawyers and said to myself, I can do that. So I set out to become a lawyer. Now, after about 3 years here as an assistant district attorney, I opened up my own practice in Cambridge, right on the Jefferson, Dane county line. Later, I set up my office in Lake Mills, and that's where I am today. With over 30 years of experience, I feel like I am the better candidate for Branch 1 here. In spite of my opponent's 6 years on the bench, I bring a lot more experience, knowledge, and indeed wisdom to the bench, and I think I can impart that in the courtroom. Also, I pledge equality, respect, and dignity to all people in the courtroom. Far too often, people are intimidated and feel disrespected in a courtroom. That will not happen in my courtroom. Also, and I pledge to each of you here today that if you call upon me, I will work with the board and always have an open door policy to work with you. I think it's important that we develop a working relationship if necessary. Now, finally, suffice it to say, ladies and gentlemen, I would not be running for this position if I did not think change was necessary, that change was needed. And most attorneys and many in law enforcement would agree with me that a change is needed in Branch 1. I would not be running against Branch 3 or Branch 4. However, I am running for Branch 1. And thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate it. And no matter who you vote for, vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Thank you. Other announcements? Mr. Lucky, you had some announcements.
I've got a couple. I'll go up here quickly.
All right, so first I want to just say thank you. I have a couple announcements, one of which is probably poorly timed because I'm going to point out, although I'm very grateful to all of you for the job, you are not my favorite Jefferson County resident. She is actually sitting back there, my wife Tara, so if everyone could say hello. Thank you for all the support. She's the one who encouraged me to apply for the assistant job back when it was created and then for the interim and full-time jobs, so she's the reason why you're stuck with me. On April 2nd and April 3rd, we will be having blood drives both here in the county boardroom and then at Human Services. There are 4 Jefferson County employees. We will be accepting walk-in appointments, but if any of you are interested in giving blood April 2nd or April 3rd, we'll have plenty of spots open through the Red Cross. Youth Government Day, we've talked a bit about. That is Friday, May 2nd. I think that's occurred in the past. We're bringing it back this year. It's going to be an opportunity for high schools, all the area high schools, to send juniors from their class to come to Jefferson County Courthouse here and spend a full day learning about county government and potentially some future careers in there. We're trying to structure it this year to also include some type of policy discussion, about an hour where they can work through a real life issue, and hoping to have some county board members, if you're available, that'll be around 10 in the morning on Friday, May 2nd, come and participate with the school districts from your district. We're also looking for potentially some real life issues that they can work through in a resolution or something they can help author at the end of the activity. So if any of you, I know we have a number of educators in the room, have experience doing something like this with a group, we're all ears and open to suggestions. This next Saturday, or this upcoming Saturday, March 15th, will be the expiration of our contract with many of our Zoom accounts. We are going to keep one, the JC Zoom at Jefferson County WI.gov account. That's also going to have the webinar for county boards, so nothing for this meeting will be changing. However, for committee meetings, we'll be using Teams, which is also going to integrate better with the committee room software we have. I have double checked. I'm going to be doing a video walkthrough to make sure that you all are able to use Teams on your tablets. It is preloaded on there for people that might log on a different, either a phone or another tablet or a laptop. Just make sure you have Microsoft Teams downloaded. It should be very smooth. It should be functionally the same as clicking on a Zoom link. You'll just click on a link that says Teams instead. But I want to make sure that we don't have any issues as we begin that. April 25th is the legislative breakfast. More to come on that, but I will be sending out a save the date for those of you who are at the fall one. It's going to look pretty similar to that, but we wanted to get it in before the Joint Finance Committee starts meeting on the budget. Under Section 3.051 of the board rules, committees or county board supervisors are the only representative for the county on a committee. I have a written report due in March that will be presented as a communication in the April packet. A number of you, almost everyone who that applies to has already submitted that, and the communication was given in this packet. That's where you're seeing it from. But if you are the sole representative of Jefferson County on any boards or committees, just make sure you send in a written report to the clerk, who will then distribute it to everyone. And finally, this is just a kudos. It was mentioned during the rollover or the carryover presentation from Mark, but kudos to Kevin Weissman and our Parks Department for 10 sustained years of effort on the Tree Loft property. I know that was a very, very, very long time coming, and just very proud of everything they've done out of the committee as well. So thank you all.
And then I have one announcement, and it's a announcement I'm sad to make tonight, but we are losing one of our county supervisors. Russell Coots is moving out of his district. This is his last meeting. Would you like to say anything? Explain what's going on at your...
Just that it's been a pleasure and a privilege to serve for these last 13 years as a county board supervisor. I had started early in my career working for the nursing home here for Jefferson County for 4 years, and then 4 years in the Human Service Department as it began, as it started. So I got a collective 21 years for serving in Jefferson County. And both my wife and I are lifelong residents of the county, and appreciated serving here. And thanks a lot. Met a lot of nice people here, and appreciate it. Thanks.
He's just moving across town, so he's going to be out of his district. He emailed me today.
David, I'm going to be in yours.
I was going to say. Need an address.
But Russ has agreed to serve as a citizen member when we have an opening on various committees and this and that, and we appreciate all his time spent on Human Services and Finance Committee and his expertise at both. So thank you again, Russell, and best of luck on the move.
Thanks.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Jekyll, second by Mr. Backlund. This is not debatable. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.